Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be making this ruched dress. I'm going to be making the short version of it. So I'm going to be start drafting the front bodies. First I'll be marking my shoulder line. I'll be rolling it out. Then at the center front I'll be marking 1.25. You can do 1 inch, you can do 1.25 inch, and this is what I'll be using for the casing of my rope that will make you ruched at the center front. Then I'm marking my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10.5. Then I'll be marking my shoulder to waist, which is 17 inches. Then from the waist I'm coming up by 1.5 inch because the front of my dress is going to have a band. This front part is going to have a band, so that 1.5 inch will be my band. And then I am going to be marking my shoulder divided by 2, which is 7.25. and I'm going to be marking my sleeve length here. Guys, I really think your sleeve length for this dress should be shorter. I made mine about 7 inches and it was too long, so I would advise 4-5 inches max. Then I marked my shoulder slope 1 inch and I connected it to my neck width of 3 inches. And I'm marking my neck depth of 7 inches for the front, and I'm going to be connecting my 3 inches width to my 7 inches depth. So I'll be marking my sleeve opening here. Also, I made a mistake here. Your sleeve opening should be your half of your armhole. I used 7.5 inches here and it was not that free. I should have used maybe like 8.5, which is my original armhole, so just take note of that. Then I marked my bust divided by 4. Then I added my 1 inch allowance. Guys, note that this bodice doesn't have that, it's that less. So I connected my waist to my bust, and I'm going to be connecting my bust to my sleeve opening right there. And that's about it for the front bodies. So I'm going to be cutting it out now. Please note that that extension there, that front 1.25 inches extension, it's not going to be part of the band because I'm going to be cutting the band of fold. But for the front bodies, I'm going to be cutting 2 of it. If you get what I'm saying, just follow the video, you get what I'm saying. So I'm just going to cut it out right now, then I'll move on to the back when I'm done cutting. So I'm placing my front pattern on another piece of paper, and I'll be using that to cut my back. So the back and the front is basically the same thing. That extension for the front pattern will be my zipper allowance for the back, so I'm marking it out. Also, I'm replacing the band, the 1.5 inch band that I cut out from the waist. I'm replacing it on the band because I don't want the back to have a detachable band. It's just going to be one piece. Then I'll be marking my neck depth of 1.25 inches and I'll be connecting it to my neck width. Then I'm extending my zipper allowance right there. So I'm just going to be cutting it. Please don't make the mistake of not replacing your band that you cut out from the front. Please make sure you place it on the back, that 1.5 inch that you cut out. So I'm just cutting it. So I'm going to be doing some alteration on the back pattern, the first thing I'll be doing is to slant my zip allowance. So I'm coming in on that zip line by 0.5 inch, and I'm going to be slanting it back into the original zip allowance line, just like that. So from my new line now, I'm going to be marking my 1.25 of zipper allowance again. So this will be my new zip allowance. This is just to ensure that my zip lays very flat, like it follows the curve of my back. Also, I'm going to be coming up by I think I came up by 1 inch. You can do 0.75 and you can do 1 inch. This is because this dress does not have a dart, and I don't want any excess bulging at my back, so I'm going to be cutting out excess fabric that is supposed to cause bulging at my back. So I'll be cutting it out, and so I'm going to be cutting 2 of my back piece, 2 of my front piece, and 2 pieces of my band as well. So moving on to the skirt part of this dress, this is how I'm going to be folding my full flare. As you can see, I'm illustrating it with this piece of paper. First you fold into 2, then you fold again into 4, and that's exactly what I did for this fabric here. The next thing I need to do now is to calculate my radius in order to cut my full flare. So from your primary school mathematics, the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. You might have seen a lot of videos just dividing their waist by 6.284. It's not magic. It's just calculating the circumference of a circle. So we are assuming that your whole waist is a circle. So that's 2 pi r. Your r is your radius, which we're trying to find. And we know that our pi is a constant and it is 3.142. So my circumference is my waist plus my zipper allowance, which is 34 plus 2.5, that's 36.5. So that 36.5 is equal to 2 pi r. So you know my 36.5 is now equal to 2 times pi, which is 6.284, then multiplied by r. Then your mathematics, you divide both sides by 6.284. then my r is 5.8 approximately. So this is the radius. So in order for you to know the amount of fabric you're supposed to fold for any 360-degree circle at all that you want to cut, all you have to do is get your radius, then you add the length of the circle to your radius. So in this case, this is the length of my skirt that I'm going to be adding to the radius, and since I already got my radius, which is 5.8, I'm going to be adding that 5.8 to whatever length my skirt is. In my case, I used I think 23 inches for the length of this skirt. So the first thing I will be doing is first marking that 5.8. You can see I'm placing my tape at that very edge there, and I'm marking my 5.8, making sure that my tape does not move from that pointed edge of the circle. So I'm marking my 5.8 there, and I'm going to be connecting my marks together. So then from that part, I'm going to be marking the length of my skirt, and I'm just going to be rotating. Okay, I decided to take my length from that same edge so it will be accurate. So just watch how I kept rotating my tape, making sure that my tape did not move from that pointed edge. If you follow these steps, you would achieve a perfect circle without wasting your fabric, because then you won't cut excess fabric. So once you get your radius and you add it to your length, that's the amount of fabric you're going to be folding. So I'm just marking my circle here, and I realized that I had a little shortage at that edge there. So when cutting, I'm just going to be reducing my length by ½ inch. Here also I'm adding my seam allowance at the waist part, and then I'm going to be cutting. I'm just checking here to make sure that I have a quarter of my waist plus my seam allowance. So here I'm just cutting. I made sure I cut ½ inch shorter than what I marked because of my shortage at that edge there. And there you have it. So make sure you notch your point, and then I'm going to be opening one side of this circle and I'm going to be separating it. This is because I need to join the zip to it. And I'm also marking the wrong side of the fabric because the wrong side and the right side are alike. So I already cut my pattern on fabric. Please note that on the shoulder part, instead of ½ inch allowance, I added 1 inch allowance at the shoulder part only. That's because that 1 inch allowance will also be my casing for the ruching at the shoulder part. Also for the band, I cut it on fold and I cut 2 of it. So the first thing I'll be doing is turning my neckline, the front neckline with bias, and I've done just that. Then I'm going to be turning my back neckline also with bias. Now I'm placing the fronts together, right sides facing each other, and I'm going to be joining at that seam that I left earlier. So from that seam line, I'm marking 3.5 on either side of my front. This will be my opening. You can decide to make yours smaller, but I don't think it should be wider than 3.5. So here I'm just notching it a little, then I'm going to be stitching down that part. Please watch out what I'm doing closely, and don't be like me, guys. Don't use blade to rip your seams, okay? Please use your seam ripper. I couldn't find my seam ripper, that's why I had to use blade. So I stitched down that part up until the part where I notched, then I joined it back together. So next I'm going to be making the casing for my rope at the front part here, and I'm done with making the casing now. Then I'm also folding my sleeve opening. I folded for both the front and the back, my sleeve opening for the front and the back separately before joining it at the shoulder parts. Yes, that's because we want the sleeve opening hemmed before we make our casing. So now I'm going to be joining it at the shoulder part, and I'm going to be doing the same thing I did for the center front. I'm going to be joining, I'm going to be folding over that seam to make casing for my rope. So I've done that for both. So this is my rope. I'm just going to be marking what I have on the shoulder, and I'm going to be multiplying it by 2 or something. Just it depends on how long you want it to be. So my rope is about 1.5 inches, and I just folded it over and I stitched on it, and that's what I have. So I decided to use a bias rope for my front part because the casing was tinier than the one I had on the shoulder. So I'm just going to be fixing my rope with the head of my safety pin, and then before joining the sides, here I have my band. I remember we cut 2 of the band, so I'm going to be placing the band over each other. First, I'm going to be marking that same 3.5 inch we marked for that opening. I'm going to be marking it on the band, and I'm going to be stitching that part down, right sides of the band facing each other. So after stitching it down, I'm going to be turning over, and I'm going to be attaching the band back to the bodice. So I stitched down that 3.5 part on both sides, then I notched, and I'm trimming it out a bit. and I'm going to be ironing and pressing it down. Then I flipped it over. So this is what I have after flipping. Can you see? Then I'm going to be joining it to the front bodice. So after joining, okay, I pinned it down so it will not shift. Then I'm going to be joining by 1/2 inch. So after joining, this is what we have, and you can see the opening there is still showing when I open it up, but otherwise it looks closed. So in order to join my sides, I'm going to be joining my zipper allowance first using loose stitches. So that's me just rolling my zipper allowance and joining them with loose stitch. So it is from my zip allowance line, that center line, that I'm going to be taking my measurements. So I'll be taking my bust measurement, and I'm going to be taking my waist measurement in order to join both the front and the back together, so it will be accurate. So I'm going to be pinning both sides together before joining. As you can see, so after joining, this is what I have. I'll be attaching the ropes later, and the next thing to do is to join my flare, my full flare, my skirt part. So just matching my center point, I'm going to be joining the upper part to the lower part. Then I hemmed the lower part and I fixed my zipper, and this is the end result, guys. So you can actually ruche the center front so that your opening will show, or you can decide to leave it like that and just tuck in your rope. And you can also decide to ruche your sleeve part, or you can leave it like that. Either way, anyhow you like it. So thank you so much for watching the video, guys. Please like, share and subscribe.